Welcome to the Atomic Nutrition Podcast. On this show, I'll be diving deep into the world of nutrition coaching, giving you the do's, the don'ts, and the how-tos in running a successful, scalable nutrition program. I'm Erin Hurst, and I can't wait to share what I've learned after over a decade of doing it myself. Welcome to episode 2 of the Atomic Nutrition Podcast. Today, I want to talk a little bit about imposter syndrome and knowledge versus wisdom. And this is something that I'm kind of going to weave these two ideas together as we go, because I think they relate both to you and the client and the way that you coach are going to address your client, especially as it relates to your know-it-all clients. So I guess I'll start by kind of jumping into the know-it-all client. We've all had them. And if you haven't had them, you're probably afraid of having one of them. I think, we've all had one of those clients that says, oh, I already know, or so-and-so told me that this really worked for them, or, so-and-so, he does it this way and it works for him. I already know that I should do this. I already know about macros. I already know, right? So it's this client idea that they already know, they already have the knowledge. And sometimes that can be really kind of off-putting to a coach, a nutrition coach, or off-putting to, or maybe frustrating for you, or it might scare you a little bit because you may fear taking on a client that you think already knows everything, because you feel like, what am I going to do? Like, they already know, they're already, super smart, and they already understand macros and all of this. And what am I going to do with them? They already kind of have everything dialed in. But there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. And that's kind of where I want to go with this today. So just because your client knows something, which is common knowledge, doesn't mean that it's common practice. And so as that wraps into imposter syndrome, is sometimes coaches will feel like they're not ready to get started. And gyms, especially, when I talk to gyms about why they don't have nutrition programs up and going in their gym, one of the common things is, well, I don't really know a whole lot about nutrition, or I don't feel like I've got enough, education about nutrition to get started, or I don't have enough coaches who have nutrition certifications. Okay, well, the funny thing about this is that there is people out there that have all the certifications, and I call these people certificate chasers, because they don't actually get started. They just think, when I feel like I've got enough information or enough knowledge, or once I get this certificate, or once I know more about this, then I'll get started. Then I'll go out and get my first client. Then I'll start a program in my gym. But I feel like I really need to get like this certification first, or that certification. The thing is, yes, education is very important, right? We can't deny that. It is important to have some basic understanding of nutrition before you go in and start talking about nutrition. And also, it's important to understand nutrition from a lifestyle standpoint. That way you do no harm to your clients, not giving somebody something totally off the wall. But generally speaking, if you have a basic understanding of nutrition, you can definitely help somebody, especially if you take a habit focus, which is kind of what we do at Atomic Nutrition. But that being said, we see a lot of people who are just certificate chasers. They go jump from certificate to course to education system, because they're never going to jump out and put themselves in the actual working pool to say, you know what, I'm going to go take a client, because they're never going to feel ready. And the funny thing is they're never going to feel ready until they actually have practice. And the only way they're going to get practice is by jumping in head first. So if you feel like maybe that resonates with you, I urge you to take the leap, get out there and start getting clients, because you're never going to feel ready to take on your first client, or to run your first nutrition program in your gym, or to run your first challenge. You're always going to feel like your head is underwater and you don't know what you're doing. And have a little bit of faith that you're always going to have the worst case scenario built up in your mind. And I think a lot of imposter syndrome comes from that. It's like, well, what happens if I have a client who knows everything and they come to me and I look stupid because I don't know how to help them? Well, the reality is they're coming to you because they might know everything, but they haven't figured out how to actually apply what they know. And so if you are a great coach and you understand basic habits and basic lifestyle design to say, okay, I know that somebody who's successful has these traits. I know that somebody who's successful does these things. I know that they have a structured life. I know that they do things like meal prep. I know that they eat mostly whole foods. I know that they focus on their hunger cues. They make sure they're not overeating all the time. I know that their stress levels are pretty managed. I know that they're getting enough sleep. I know that they're hydrated. And I know that they have a general scheduled life. They're not just all over the place all the time. So those are some basic factors of somebody who is probably pretty successful. Now, a lot of people that might come to you, they might seem like they have it all together, but when you start digging in, you're going to find that their stress levels are through the roof. They're not sleeping. Maybe they don't drink enough water. They might be sitting all day at a desk. They're not prioritizing getting up and moving their body. There's a lot of things that we can unpack with a client that has nothing to do with nutrition. So sometimes the client might come to you and you might think, oh, I'm a little intimidated. I don't know if I should be able to, if I'm going to be able to help this person because, they already understand macros and they've been doing macro coaching forever. So I don't think I can help them. Don't think that, right? So start to unpack all the other areas of their life. And you're going to soon start to realize that once you start putting this into practice, you're like, oh, I've got this. Like, this is no big deal. But you're never going to get there until you actually go and start implementing and practicing. And a part of that is getting out and putting yourself into the coaching waters. How I kind of want to wrap that back to the know-it-all client, though, is that there's a quote that I just love. It goes, knowledge is knowing a tomato is a fruit, and wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad, right? So your client may have all the knowledge in the world. You might have all the knowledge in the world. But wisdom is knowing how to actually take that knowledge and implement it. And I think that is the part where most people struggle. So oftentimes as nutrition coaches, we try to approach nutrition as like, let's educate our clients about nutrition. Let's educate them about macros. Let's educate them about proteins and carbs and fats and all these things, right? But education probably isn't the problem, honestly. The problem is the implementation of what they probably already know. Because I think most people have the basic understanding of nutrition, and that a Big Mac is not good for you, right? I mean, generally speaking, I don't want to say it's not good for you, but there's not a lot of healthy things, a healthy quality out of a Big Mac. But at the same point in time, chicken and broccoli and sweet potato is great for you, right? So we all know that like a chicken and apples are going to be healthy, and something like ice cream is probably something that should be done in moderation. We know this, right? But we don't necessarily, a lot of our clients don't necessarily have the knowledge or the wisdom on how to actually take that knowledge and turn it into something that fits in their life. So as you approach nutrition coaching and as you approach running a program in your gym, I urge you to, if you have coaches that are ready and willing and able to get in there and help you, but maybe they're a little scared, share this knowledge with them. Share the wisdom that, hey, you don't have to know everything. And there's another thing that I kind of want to drop in here, and that's that it's okay to not know everything. I actually think that saying, I'm not sure, let me get back to you, is probably one of the most powerful things that you can say in nutrition coaching, or any type of coaching for that matter, or really in any scenario if you don't know. And I usually give the example of that. Think about going to a restaurant, and you sit down at a restaurant and you ask the server, hey, does this dish have pickles in it? And let's just say that you have like a pickle phobia. So like it's a big deal if there is pickles in your meal. And you ask the server, hey, does this have pickles on it? And your server says, I'm not sure. Let me get right back to you. I'm going to go check on that and I'll get right back to you. And they come back and they say, you know what? It does have pickles. And you're like, okay, great. Can we do that without pickles? And they're like, yeah, sure. No problem. Let me write that down. Okay, great. So now you get your meal and it's got no pickles and you're happy and they're happy and you tip them well and everybody goes on about their business. They've served you well and you've had a great experience. Now, if that same server were to say, no, there's no pickles on that, rather than going and asking and they just kind of, no, they just like spit out some kind of answer because they don't want to think, they don't want you to think that they don't know, because that would make them seem stupid, right? Or that would make them seem like they're not good at their job, by just spitting out some answer. And then you say, okay, great, that's what I'll have. And then they order it, it hits your table and guess what? It's got pickles on it. And now you're barfing because you have some phobia about pickles, right? Obviously kind of a silly example here, but the idea is that that server now underserved you. They did not do you any justice, and you did not have a good experience because they weren't willing to just say, I'm not sure. Let me go find out. And sometimes I'll even say, hey, you know what? I want to flesh out the idea that I might have in my mind right now. I have an idea about this, but I want to fully flesh it out first. So give me until the afternoon today and I will send you over a response. That's like a beautiful way to respond to something that you're not sure about, or maybe you have an idea, but you want to just confirm your suspicion. It's a super easy thing to do. Nobody's going to think that you're not smart or that you don't have the education. At the end of the day, they're going to respect the fact that you're going to go out there and do your proper research before delivering them a response. So you shouldn't have to know everything to get started. Be okay with saying, I don't know, and coming back at it at another time. So this all kind of wraps into how we can get around imposter syndrome and what to do with know-it-all clients, especially as it relates to knowledge versus wisdom. Because I think knowledge versus wisdom it mirrors between the client experience and the coaching experience. You can look at both experiences, and it's going to be the same trajectory, really, from knowledge to wisdom. It's learning and then implementation. It's the same whether you're the coach or the client. So hopefully that was really helpful today. Make sure that you check out my other podcasts, like and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Atomic Nutrition Podcast. You can find more information about the Atomic Coaching System at getomiccoaching.com. And if you found value in this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe. Happy coaching.